right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the Next Best Picture podcast, where I am being joined right now by the director of Eric LaRue, Michael Shannon. Michael, thank you so much for coming back on the show, and I hope you're doing well, man.
Oh, I'm excited that the movie's coming out.
Heck yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know this thing premiered last year at Tribeca. It's obviously like any other film out there. I've had a long way towards development here. But for you, I imagine this probably goes back to at least seeing the show, the play that it's based on by Brett, right?
Yeah, I saw it back in 2002. Yeah, I saw the play in Chicago at the theater that I belong to. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
you've been thinking about this for quite a while, then, I imagine.
Well, I mean, I saw it and I was quite taken with it. I watched the production a number of times when it was playing at our theater. But then, then a couple of decades went by. But it came back around when Brett handed me the screenplay, which he had done himself, uh, and he just asked me to read it and see what I thought of it. Ask for my input or whatnot, and then I read it, and I all the memories I had of seeing the play originally all those years ago came flooding back to me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to imagine, there's a multitude of reasons why one would want to tackle this subject matter. Obviously, gun issues in our country, especially when it comes to children in schools, have only gotten worse. They've never not gotten better. But I have to imagine this also probably strikes you too as a parent as well, the themes of this story.
Um, Yeah, but also just as a citizen of this country.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like every time something like this happens, it doesn't just affect the parents of the victims or the parents of the perpetrators. It affects our culture, our whole society.
Yeah.
It doesn't just go away, and the fact that we still haven't figured out what to do about it after all this time. To me, it's a real tragedy.
Especially considering too, there's no explanation, there's no answer to any of this senseless violence. Even the characters in this film who are trying to make some sort of sense and pick up the pieces and carry on their lives, there's no path forward that they can clearly define for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think yeah, the path to healing or reconciliation is not an easy one, and
No.
it doesn't necessarily. I think a lot of people associate healing with relief or peace or feeling a sense of well-being. And I'm not sure that that's always the case. It's funny because in the physical world, like a lot of times healing, just if you have an injury, can be a very painful process.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when we think about it, emotionally or spiritually, uh, we 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 associate with getting beyond pain or suffering. But yeah, I don't think it goes away. I don't think it goes away.
No.
Yeah.
And sometimes, when you have nothing left to turn to or don't know where to turn, what else can you do but just laugh sometimes? And I
Yeah.
think a lot of situations in this film present themselves to that.
Yeah. Well, there is a certain absurdity to the situation.
Hmm.
No doubt about it. I mean, they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Right.
And there definitely seems to be an element of that at play in this narrative.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And, some people turn to religion as a source of comfort here, as Alexander Skarsgård character tries to find, but there's an absurdity in that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it can also be a beautiful and transcendent experience.
Hmm. Not
I
to
would
take that
never,
away from anyone, of course.
yeah, yeah. I just think it can't be entered into blindly.
Hmm.
Um, like I think no matter what your beliefs are, you still have to acknowledge the reality of the situation. You know what I mean? No matter what you believe spiritually, or you have to acknowledge you can't divorce it from the reality of the situation that you're dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah. This is your feature directorial debut. And so I know for some, they might be wondering, hey, there might have been a part for you in this. How come just solely behind the camera and not on both sides of the camera? What was the decision there?
Well, I thought I had a pretty enormous responsibility in and of itself by directing the film.
Hmm.
Um, and I wanted to be there for all the other artists that I was working with. Uh, totally. I wanted to be totally available to them. Um, and I was so fascinated by all of the characters in the film and all of the different points of view that I wanted to. I didn't want to focus on any one particular character, really. I wanted to try and, in conjunction with the actors, kind of discover all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that why also a lot of scenes play out in mediums where the camera's more observational, you would argue?
Yeah. Yeah. And also, the space around people, the negative space creates a sense of, I think it's important to know where people are.
Hmm.
And it creates a sense of isolation, that seeing people isolated within their own environment, or not. If you see them, two people holding in a frame, but at an interesting relationship to one another. But yeah, I feel like one of the benefits of expanding it from a play to a screenplay is really getting, because when I saw the play, it was in a black box theater and there was hardly any set at all. And what we were able to do in the movie is actually create very specific environments. The I put a lot of thought into the home, the LaRue home, and a lot of thought into the two different churches, and really wanting, because I feel like those environments tell a story, participate in telling the story just as much as anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also too, I kind of got that sense from the lighting. There's a heavy use of shadows, but then there's also some blown out lights that create like almost like this hazy quality, though, as if like the characters are walking through uncharted, unknown territory, if you will.
Hmm.
That's so I really, really, I thought that was a very, very strong aesthetic choice on your part.
Well, it was also Andrew Wheeler, the DP, very early on, advocated for the use of filters,
Mm.
some fairly strong filters. Um, and he said, I don't know if your producers will let me get away with this because it's a pretty bold choice. I think we found a compromise. But yeah, I'm so glad that he suggested that, because I think it is very palpable in the final result. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I know you've collaborated with Local H before, the alt rock band. Scott Lucas and the Married Men provide a cover of Bob Dylan's Positively Fourth Street to close out the film on. And I was thinking, other than just the sound itself being kind of like a clash in tone with the rest of the movie, which also kind of plays into a little bit of what we're talking about here as far as like certain levels maybe of absurdity. I'm just curious to know because I know there's been obviously a lot of talk over the years about what the lyrics of that song mean. What was the significance of that song in particular for you to close the film out on?
It's found the lyrics so connected to the story I'd been telling. Basically, the idea of like what's authentic and what's not authentic, you know, the relationships in the film um, being challenged uh, throughout the film, and then lyrically in that song, the refrain, I wish that for just one time you could stand inside my shoes, because then you know what a drag it is to see you. I feel like th I see evidence of that throughout the entire movie.
Hmm.
That song, I knew that I wanted that to be the last song. And Scott didn't make that for the movie. He had already recorded it. It's on a record. But I would listen to that song every day before I'd go to set. It was like my anthem, really, in making the movie. It just it seemed like it had been written. It seemed like it had been written for the film, for the story.
Yeah.
I
And
can't sit here and specifically identify. I don't have the lyrics committed to memory, but you have no faith to lose, and you know it. I mean, come on.
mhm.
That's just, I don't know. Sometimes for me, something so I don't want to use the word obvious, but it's just like to me, I have a hard time even explaining it because it just makes so much sense to me.
I hear you.
Yeah, it would be easier to, I don't know, explain something that didn't make any sense.
Yeah. All right, and then to close things out here, I've heard from so many people over the years that you're a wonderful actor. We all know you're a great versatile actor. You're working with other great actors here who are digging deep and giving these very layered performances. This is, as I said earlier, your directorial debut. Is there a desire to want to continue to work behind the camera to work further with actors in this capacity?
Oh, yeah, I think there is, but I mean, I'd have to find the material that moved me to do so.
Hmm.
I'm never going to be like a, director for hire. It really was the script that activated my mind as a director in that
Hmm.
capacity, to direct. And I love working with Brett. I think Brett's a really unique voice and has so much to say that I hope to continue working with him. Um, but I haven't found a script that's really rung my bell the way this one did yet. But I'm on the lookout for it. Yeah.
That's exciting. Well, whether it's in front of the camera, behind the camera, maybe both next time, who knows? We look
Yeah.
forward to it, Michael, and I can't thank you enough for your time here, man.
Thank you, Matthew. Sorry about that. I hope you don't miss your appointment.
No, 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 God, no. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Matthew. All right.